When night falls, the Sheko people climb the high trees of the forest in search of honey. The fierce bees are subdued with smoke and fire. One slip for the men and boys can mean death. The Sheko live in the far west of the Ethiopian highlands, before the hills drop down to the lower plains of southern Sudan. They've lived here for centuries, cut off from the outside world. They grow corn and collect honey, and find most of the things they need in the forest. Miangu is well off, and has over 200 beehives, and 2 wives. His first wife has run away, leaving the second one, Pony, to cook for him. Wives are expensive, and the only way a man can get rich here is by collecting honey. Miangu didn't pay a bride price in cash for Pony, but exchanged her for a bad debt with a relative. Pony was not getting along with her first husband. Beehives are made from hollowed-out tree trunks and set high up in the forest. Miangu sets off with a group of friends to tie a hive into a tree. They bring ropes made from the bark of forest vines and spears to ward off wild animals. Their many hives are spread from the edge right into the deepest part of the forest, as an invitation to the wild bees to set up home. They unwillingly donate their honey to Miangu and the Sheko people. Miangu's friend Marcus climbs the tree. He and Miangu share much of their work. Miangu stays at the base of the tree to tie the rope and send up the hive. Marcus shins up the great trunk. He was taught to climb by his uncle after his father died. Marcus loops the bark rope to give him a foothold on the smooth tree. At this height, one slip can mean death. Many Sheko are killed or injured by falling out of trees. The valley below stretches down to the edge of the Sheko's land, where they trade the honey. Behind them, the forest has space for many thousands of hives. The hollow log has one open end for reaching the honey. They stuff this with a plug of leaves. The other end has a small hole for the bees. If no bees have come in 6 months, they'll clean the hive, rub it with special herbs to attract bees, and hoist it to another tree. The top of the hive is called the male. The female is underneath. The two halves are then lashed firmly to the tree. Miangu coils up his homemade rope with great care. Their lives depend on it. Miangu lives on the edge of a vast forest. A day's walk away on the other side of the woods is the family home of his first wife, Basinsi. They'd been married for 12 years when, after Miangu took Pony as his new bride, she fled back to her old home. Basinsi had no children with Miangu. Now she makes cornbread for her brother's child and waits to hear from her husband.
Chorus and Bob can eat his gomus and nothing evil, go get chorus, and a bank and asking him what yakinte, Yagartini, and youngest.
Shatu Karicomet in a kind in a Shatu Karicomet taking a fish, nothing to watch, and Davis and Karas and Yak is a yip nason, and nothing to watch and get away, gas, Nakanogun Sakas. Why again, Nakas?
Alcus to Abena, in a young other carpet, in other shomte, in a Bainok of Gasta, in Asan Barta. As numbers can get sugar in the summer, in some chair in the Yagas away, so wine, Nakan Yagas of Dang Shat Night, or chicken, not in Coiba, that and yes, no shum, Bob shum, Nan of shum, not in shum.
And now, another of Basinsi's relations has died. Her brother's young wife, Darrow, became sick and quickly passed away. The gravediggers are finishing the timbers that form a cover for the body in the carefully made hole. Darrow's body will be wrapped in a shroud of bark cloth before being placed in the grave. Like most things here, the shroud can be found in the forest. Her cousin climbs a scaffold they've built to reach the high trunk of the tree. Her nephew, Gado, makes a hardwood tool to pound the bark from the tree. A ring of bark is cut from where they'll start the shroud.
Porta, gorshi yamskancha, gorgavish yamskancha, burkuskancha, gaviskancha, natriskancha, porchata, walkinskancha, kancha, ersinkancha, kancha, akastabure, woko kai, erika, gusista, akastabur and saktige. Walkinskancha, akre.
Gavishim is goma. Gavis goma. Is unter Babma, tanks in opte, unter gizim nakunuko, kumbabu, kumbab, tanks in opte. Tanks by duty, tanks walking to continue out and unto in Akaswama, tanks just so good, tanks in fucking us so sincy. Cannot go to Chashin Jashus and Chairman Puru, Purs of Nagad, but Purs of Cotton as a walking day, or take Niakusi.
The women wear cotton now, which they trade for honey in the outside world. They make beer for the funeral by grinding corn, which is then mulched, filtered, and left to ferment. Gado and his friend pound the bark from the tree. Like Miangu, he had trouble with his bride.
Waiting at you. I'm quite not boys, and yes, I am not giving change. I got that. You want to take back so in next question, because in academic guys probably call who got eating boys in here. You didn't take a young autumn to Sheko People. I must call him some Jacob person.
Girls and money are the subject of men's talk everywhere. Here, where the cost of brides is high, the subjects of money and girls can be as one. The young girls here are often taken off by force to be wed. They certainly feel they're getting the worst side of the deal.
Babana dev so nashish. Guys good işte. Der işte. Istim bab sorgana dirgiyor da nashish. Nan bab troska şolum çünkü nas. Gan bab jasna pe ite katste jasna ketena. Bab jasna na kasmbao ke shinke. Isinde ek bam da tun zakka dirku devte.
After the corn has been ground, it is watered and filtered before being left to ferment. More and more relations arrive, and they help make more and more beer. The bark cloth is long enough now to be cut off the tree. It will be scraped and washed, then we'll be ready to wrap the body of Darrow, the dead girl. It's the day of the funeral. Men sit outside the house, waiting for the beer. Inside the hut, the women mourn for Darrow. She was a young mother, and her sudden death came as a surprise. The nearest hospital is many days' walk away. The men have all arrived, and now so has the beer. The dead body cannot be brought out till they've all had enough to drink. The grave diggers put the finishing touches to their careful work. The beer has been drunk, and the litter is now ready to take Darrow to her grave. Darrow's sister wants to delay the burial, giving time for more relations to arrive. Gaddo stands in the grave and lines it with mats of bark cloth. His shroud wraps Darrow's body. Back at his farm, Miangu and Pony have domestic chores that have to be done. Miangu was expected at the funeral, but he didn't go. It was his first wife Basinzi's sister-in-law that died. Although he is determined to get his wife back, Miangu has put off the moment of confronting her relations. He had other reasons closer to home as well.
Inesinge karasinten singe arote. Isin bangara ka ship moka nin ka waka not waka. Waka tama kinishiku shitiyat again. And ta kokun was near Kitagusi bangers again. Naka if you can see get naka nin the first amans asta. Kai quite a soy case of ka. Ishkin down kush again naka aston and dolted and dines again. Nokas dolted.
Miangu's most important work is growing corn and getting honey. He needs more beehives. He goes with Marcus to cut a tree to make hives. He brings a club and a knife, one of the few things they get from outside. They head for a onsa tree, which is hard and specially good for making hives. Marcus brings hard wood wedges to split the log.
Ich bin gar nicht die nichts gut.
Pony and her friend Gaban have been to fetch clay. They plan to make pots for brewing honey wine. They skirt the hill on their long way home with a heavy load. They leave the logs on the ground for 6 months to dry. Men sometimes steal wives, but their beehives here are safe from theft. Beehives are precious, but so are wives. And Miangu has been worrying about the lost investment in his first wife. The matter has been on Pony's mind too, as she makes her pots. She doesn't want to get the blame for the loss of Miangu's first wife.
Yandangi ga yakin oisin engsi, a yakin emsing engsi, yandangi. Iti bak ti bak boysat san ba yeti nyazn ina nyaz kekisi. Inyet oisin engsi yandangi ga saat na giam dad fast gurun gasnsi. Dad fast gurun paznsi. A yekita dad nyasi. An bagin asni sati sam ya shibot yesi gengya.
Ak ini keni baci shikisi an ba keni gensi se. Kani ki ga yinin kan na tuga se abiri shi ko ingalta. Ya to tun gisi biri ya waka turu fi jamutu bengi ta ka waka se ngi ya se tamu ka ta ka bengi diresi si biri isu ya ko ya ka ani ko ta bai su ko ke. Is biri is ni na tu ga se no ko o ye ken shi is sam ken nin fu ban.
Ako nga ko pagyan natin na yan.
Kucing ini ada apa tuh? Ini gua beli sih, gua ya kan gitu guys. Ya gitu sih.
Though pot making is women's work, Miangu can't resist telling them what to do.
Em tengen kos mas ke kiasi atu tuga ni koren gisgete no kano ka em ese kwatu bunkura ina ini da ba so gona
A piece of rolled bark is used to decorate the rim of the pot. The pots must dry indoors for a week before firing, if they're not to crack in the flames. Miangu has no children of his own. When Pony left her husband and joined Miangu, she brought 2 of hers. His childless marriage may have been in trouble before Pony came along. Pony certainly had problems with hers.
Ek babin ut so ise ek tenen darte na wufte na yan kushute sufte ek badi ka sin kushute gonchot ban netin lotin sin gonchot ban yetin kushute kitin baitin si bangap tege ni gen si ek bangaton tam kin kana fin ete ko to so kun kin tam erfte ko tin kana fin.
When Pony came to live with Miangu, it's obvious that thoughts of a family with his new bride took precedence over keeping on good terms with his first wife. He clearly dreams of collecting his honey with his own children by his side.
Inka chak si dirse ga dadu gen yas. Dadu sna. Aka mano kaka. Yetang tete. Kaya adiga tete. Yet adiga shwatun. Kaya asa ferangis. Kaya asana kama kaya no kaka. Asna buta kama no kaka na. Yet nadifata shim mazari tafarta yet nadifata ashungise.
The honey season is now here. Miangu and Marcus head deep into the forest to check their hives. They stay away for many days at a time. It's dusk. They choose a clearing in the forest to build a shelter before nightfall.
the dance to cap in kissing. I carry it to be. What to say if you make it? You know, the art that it is. Iso. What are you doing to work? It's out here, but I still hit up with you. Not the wrong. This is what I need. What you know. Yeah. What's your car? The ungot is about it. Where are you? I'm going to get it. But I could get it. What I'm saying, you're my dear. Sometimes you inch up the inch. Money, yeah. Is it a couple of pictures? As in Chukai. Yeah, try getting up with me. Yes. As you see, yes. In so good after shot, I've zagged nine garages.
Miangu gets well up the tree while there's still light to see. But it's dangerous to approach the bees until nightfall. Marcus prepares the torch. The light drops fast. The torch goes up, with a bunch of leaves as a new stopper for the hive. Miangu smokes out the bees, chasing them to the far end of the hollow log. This is the moment he is most likely to get stung. Although he has built up much immunity to the stings, they're all still fearful of the bees.
No.
Miangu makes a quick getaway from the angry bees, nursing many stings. On the ground, Marcus has been waiting for a taste of the season's first honey. He's hoping to find the white bee grubs that they see as a special prize. At home, Pony and Gaban bring their pots out to be fired. They've dried enough inside the hut to take the heat of the fire. Firing pots is work for women alone. They believe that the pots will break if men see them burned. At home, Miangu is back from his trip to the forest and prepares to brew the first honey wine of the season. This is the only domestic work done by men. Miangu calls for his nephew to give him a hand.
Macet, huh? Mungkin dia ising. Kau gogo tabar kita ya, gogo tabar kia. Agus dah sana. Dia kam tahan tahan.
The honeycomb is put into a pot of warm water. It's stirred and filtered before adding yeast and being left to ferment. They've waited many months for this moment, for the first honey wine of the season. Only when they've had their fill and replenished their stores will they make the long trip to sell honey to the outside world. At the other side of the forest, Basinsi's neighbors are mourning for a dead child. Miangu, busy with his honey wine, has again stayed away from his first wife's home. The child they mourn was buried 3 months ago. Men and women dressed in leaves from the forest grieve for the child and grieve for all others who have recently died. At home, Miangu's first honey wine is ready for drinking by his family and friends. He didn't go through the forest to the mourning ceremony or see his runaway wife Basinsi, but both he and Pony have her very much on their minds.
Ishka kakuso. Ingishka kai batisha.
Ngari kena se ekina nokka taki se nokka. Bar tang kaddu bar boy sin se.
Ada tinges. Asin ten ko ngai ken agyar tinges. Asin kya sabta yata anot nch gyar sakten oste basing tenges en oste basing asin.
Tengi sak debi te kyas nan gyari te kyas nak mbajibor na ko inti aktun tunen kya. Aish kena eka inti ten dane gige kisagen sisa.
Bosensi is missing the first of the season's honey wine. But maybe she'll soon be home.